is the only community that has the power in this country to change anything. They are the only one with the experience of civil matter. They are the only one que tenían el esclavo ahí mismitico. They are the only one that are not going to get deported anywhere, and you cannot put them all in jail. So African American community, which is the community that is stepped on by Cubans the most, are the only ones that are going to save the Latinos. And I clap for the African American community that has not come out, because it is not. I do. We didn't do shit for them.
I get it. But I don't.
Me and you support, but in masses, we didn't support anything that was going with them. Latinos look at Cubans specifically. I'm not gonna talk about any other community because I'm not part of that community, even though I'm a Latina with them. Cubans talk shit about African Americans. Cubans did not support African Americans. Cubans think that they all victimize themselves, of this, all of that. African Americans are the only ones that are going to save your asses, Latinos. So you better start kissing. If you're going to kiss some ass in this country, you better kiss some black ass.
I've been able to do that. Now I can empathize and sympathize with the black community. I've never been able to do that before, because I would hear them say things like, oh, we walk down the street and we get profiled, and, cops will just suddenly stop and frisk or whatever just because of the color of their skin. And I always thought, like, it's a little bit of a stretch. It feels like a little bit of a stretch. That person must be doing something, right? And obviously, I've never experienced that before. I've never felt that way before and stuff. And so I always thought, like, ignorantly, by the way, on my part, thinking like, I think you guys are, because I'm brown, I've never felt that and stuff like that, I'm also a minority. But now, with us, it wasn't the cops. Cops aren't just randomly like, go and checking in the past. But now it's our turn, right? Now we feel it. Now we feel like, crap, can I just go down the street? Do I need my paper? It's like, why are you stopping me? I'm a U.S. citizen. We're not doing anything wrong. And now we're being persecuted. And so now I'm thinking like, crap, this is what the black community meant, and I kind of feel bad. Well, I feel bad because I never really could understand where they were coming from or where you guys were coming from. But I can assure you that now that it's here with us too, it's like, crap. I honestly, legitimately didn't think it was real. But it's real as hell. And it's obviously minority groups that are targeted and persecuted pretty much. And it's right now with us is because we're brown. You guys have had your turn when, cops were just in bigger cities, urban areas, stopping disproportionately, the black community and stuff. And I just want to say, like, I guess now I understand. I think moving forward, there's going to be a little bit more unity, because we now can see where you guys are coming from. Well, at least I can, And so, yeah, guys, I just want to say sorry for being ignorant before, but I hope this unites all communities, not just minorities, and call out things for what they are, regardless of the race. Now.
Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Ruach HaKodash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace, love, salutations, and blessings to the house of David, which is the elect. And, you just seen two clips, coming from two individuals that are a part of the so-called Latino community, which we know to be the part of the northern kingdom of Israel. All right. One was a Latino woman from Cuba. So she would be considered a Manassite, right, according to her father's lineage, if it is indeed her father is, Cuban. And this other individual says that he's Mexican, so he would be a Issacharite, all right, Issacharite man, right, from the tribe of Issachar. And they both spoke about the really, right, the unity through the persecution and the oppression by Esau Edom. The unity, or trying to unify with the so-called Black Americans, which we know are the biblical Jews, all right, Judah, all right, from the tribe of, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the southern kingdom, the house of Judea, or the house of Judah. And seeing this, it goes to show that we we are the same people, okay, because we are experiencing the same persecution, right, even as this individual said, by the same oppressor, okay, which is biblical prophecy that would take place. Reading in the book of Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, let's pull that up, verse 33, it says, "Thus saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai of hosts, the children of Israel," which is the northern kingdom, "and the children of Judah were oppressed together." Okay, now when you go into the history of the different captivities, really only during the time of Egypt were, all of the tribes together in captivity, right, as a whole. Now you've had certain other captivities where, the Assyrians, for instance, they first, took over Samaria, okay, destroyed, the northern kingdom's monarchy, and then carried them away into captivity. I believe that is in the book of First Kings, the 17th chapter. And then, afterwards, the Assyrians, tried and did fight against the southern kingdom, but the Lord, delivered Israel, or the southern kingdom, Judah, from being captives to the Assyrians. However, eventually, the southern kingdom went into captivity under the Babylonians, right? The Neo-Babylonian empire. And you may have had some northern kingdom that were still around that may have went into captivity as well, because we do know that in the time of Yahushai, you had a individual, I believe, a woman, her name was Anna, and I believe she was of the tribe of Asher. So she was living, in Judea during the time of Yahushai. So you still had some remnants of the northern kingdom that were, amongst Israel, amongst the southern kingdom, I should say, during that time. But as a whole, right, as a kingdom of people, the kingdom being split during the time of Rehoboam, right, and Jeroboam, you didn't have the nations of Israel, all right, and the nation of Judah being oppressed at the same time together. That only took place in Babylon the Great, which Jeremiah, the 50th chapter, is a prophecy, right, against Babylon, prophetic Babylon, okay? Jeremiah doesn't call it Babylon the Great, but it's a prophecy against prophetic Babylon, which is Babylon the Great, which is America. And even within this chapter, he links Babylon the Great judgment similarly to the judgment that would be put on Esau, Edom, which is how we know that the daughter of Babylon is ruled by the biblical Edomites, and that is who were oppressing both tribes, the southern and northern kingdom, together, as we read here in the 33rd verse. So reading that again, it says, "Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. All that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go." And you see that playing out, throughout the whole entire conquest of Esau, of the Western Hemisphere, right, by, the Spaniards, the conquistador, Christopher Columbus and his cohorts. And then also, once they, went to the west coast of Africa, to Spain, Portugal, right, they took the southern kingdom, right, what is known as the transatlantic slave trade, and brought them over here to the Americas. And this is where we have been underneath the oppression of Esau, right, in this, time together. Okay. And Now, as you're seeing, and during this oppression, there was the curses of, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom being at odds, with each other. That was pushed even harder, right? It was there's a word I'm looking for, but it was, made even more apparent, okay, underneath Esau's kingdom, or underneath his, underneath his captivity, which was something that was purposely done, all right, to continue to divide the tribes, all right, through, language first and foremost, okay, because the northern kingdom, historically, right, when you go into the history books, it was said by historians that the natives that were here, they spoke a dialect of Hebrew, which is why you had a Hebrew interpreter, Louis de Torres, that came with Christopher Columbus to the Americas, right? I believe it was also written in the book, The 13th Tribe, if I'm not mistaken, how you had the natives, I think they were in the southeast of America, maybe in Florida or around there somewhere, where they were, telling the Spaniards that the island that was across this, this gulf or this sea is where the I want to say they said the Ephraim dwells. Okay, I could be wrong about which tribe they spoke of. It could have been Ephraim, it could have been Simeon, it could have been Manasseh, one of those three, right? Because you have Cuba and you have Ephraim, right? Those islands, Puerto Rico and Cuba, next to each other, proximity wise. But they told him that's where, those Hebrew, right, Hebraic tribes dwell, right? You've had relics, the stones that showed Hebrew writing, that dated back before the so-called Europeans came here. So there, you have customs of the fringes, borders of blue in ancient Native American and so-called Latino, communities and cultures. So there's a lot of evidence that show that the Northern Kingdom, right, are known today as Latino, so-called Latinos. But once again, what Esau did during his captivity was what he did to the so-called Black Americans, right? He stripped the Northern Kingdom from their identity, from their heritage, right, from their culture, from their history, as well. Now, not to say that the Northern Kingdom, when they were over here before Esau, they were going into, pagan customs, right? They were going into Babylonian rituals, sacrifices, human sacrifices, human cannibalism, things like that, right? Which the scriptures tells you that Ephraim, in the book of Hosea, which Ephraim represents the Northern Kingdom, right, as a whole. Where is it? It's Hosea 8:6. It said Ephraim has gone unto idols. Let me pull that up. Ephraim, Israel, gone idols. I might have said Ephraim. Let's just bear with me. Here we go. Hosea 4:17. It says, Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone. Okay? Ephraim is joined unto idols. It says in the NLT, leave Israel, and this is speaking about the Northern Kingdom. See how it says Ephraim here. Hebrew Ephraim referring to the Northern Kingdom of Israel. It says, because she is married to idolatry. All right? And that's something that they, like I said, they were even doing before Christopher Columbus and the Edomites, right, came over here. You had the Northern Kingdom right? That's the Aztecs, the Incas, the Mayans. They practice certain Babylonian pagan customs. So they were doing idolatry over here before that, but yet they still had certain Hebrew customs as well. But nonetheless, when Esau got here, like I was saying, he did what? He exacerbated, that's the word I was looking for. He exacerbated the curses of Israel, being divided, right? The division between the northern and southern kingdom. And he did that, like I said, he did it through his language, right? Creating the language barrier. And also he did it through actually the physical, right? Using physical or the color of the skins as a way to divide, right? Giving the lighter skinned northern tribes a better, living situation. And not saying that it was great, but it was better than the darker skinned northern tribes, right? And then also once they brought the so-called Black Americans over here, and throughout, all of the propaganda, the narratives, the racial institutional racism, the slander of the Southern Kingdom, in their media and all those things, it basically created a narrative to the northern tribes to hate their brother, all right, to look down upon the so-called black man, okay, which was once again a ploy by Esau to create and sustain a division between both tribes, all right. But the Lord said that he was going to bring the tribes back together, you see, and this is something that Esau couldn't grasp, right? And that them being brought back together, first and foremost, was going to be by way of this gospel being preached, you see. And then also using that same sword, right, which is Esau, to oppress both of them, right? And then now they are seeing the oppression that they're receiving, right, exclusively right now, right, with the whole immigration detaining and stopping anybody that could look a physical appearance looks like an immigrant, whether they are actual citizens or not. All of these things now is bringing to light, right, is awakening the northern kingdom to see how they're not any different than the southern kingdom, right? And the fact that we both, right, the northern and the southern kingdom, are being oppressed together, and it's ultimately because we are the same nation of people, and the people who are oppressing us, Esau, Edom, has a perpetual hatred against both of us, right? Both nations. And it's not both nations as if it's two nations, it's one nation. So I'll say both kingdoms. But the Lord Yahweh Shai is coming. Let me get that. He's coming to unify. He's coming to deliver the elect out of all the nations of Israel, or shall I say all of the tribes of Israel, all of the 12 tribes, right? The Lord has an elect in. He has a remnant in. See? And that remnant was going to be gathered together ultimately by the preaching of the word, right, of Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai. And that is what you got here in the book of Ezekiel, the 37th chapter. So when you compound us preaching the word, and, because we've been, starting with our elders and apostles, we've been teaching that the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans are all one nation of people for decades, okay, for decades. And we've been teaching how Esau has a hatred, right, toward the whole nation, and that how in the latter days there was going to be a time of Jacob's trouble. Jacob is the father of all of the tribes, right? The 12 tribes of Israel. Israel is Jacob. He had his name changed to Israel. So there was going to be a trouble upon all of the tribes of Jacob. And you see that happening here in Babylon the Great. See? And now you have the northern tribes that are seeing it also. And that's why they're making these videos like, wait, hey, we also are catching hell too. Matter of fact, we gotta, apologize to the so-called black American for, how we were looking at them and how we were treating them and how we were, thinking that we were better than them. When in reality, this devil, right, it sees us and treats us just as bad as they do. So the veil, right, is being uplifted. Okay, the drunkenness that Esau put out there, right, that wine, his ideologies, his philosophy isn't working anymore in the division of Israel. Okay, but it's and it's because, like I said, it starts with the word being preached. So when you have here in Ezekiel the 37th chapter, where it speaks about the valley of dry bones, which is the Israelites that were in that dead estate here in America because they didn't have the word being preached. Once that word started to be preached, then you had the elect, right, start to wake up. And then now you see men of all tribes, right, southern, northern, right, the Gad, Reuben, Issachar, Ephraim, Asher, all right, Manasseh, Naphtali, Zebulun. You got brothers from all tribes, Benjamin, Levi, Judah, that are waking and preaching, right, and that have been unified, all right, in the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Hawashad. But now you having even people that don't know the truth. And I'll say yet, because you may not, these individuals may wake up to knowing that they're Israelites. They have already woken up to know that they have a common enemy, right? And also that they need to unify, because that's what that guy said. But that's them just waking up to the fact that, that we're both being oppressed. But reading this here in Ezekiel 37th chapter, verse 15, again, a message came to me from the Lord, son of man. Take a piece of wood, and I'm reading this in the NLT, carve on it these words. This represents Judah and all allied tribes. Then take another piece and carve these words on it. This represents Ephraim and the northern tribes of Israel, right? And that's, why we go out there with the 12 tribe sign. Okay. That sign was prophecy, because our people were going to forget themselves. They were going to forget their resting place. They were going to forget, who they are. But the Lord said, right, through Baruch, in the land of their captivity, they shall remember themselves. And this is why we have, the 12 tribe sign out there. And the remembrance comes, also because of the punishment, right? Because of the oppression, right? That is taking place. What is that? Hosea. What is that? 5? Is it 5? Salakia. Yep, Hosea chapter 5, verse start at 14. It says, for I will be unto Ephraim as a lion, and as a young lion to the house of Judah. And even I will tear and go away, and I will take away, and none shall rescue him. And how did the Lord do that? He did that by way of raising up Esau, right, with that perpetual hatred that he has, right, and giving him the power, right? Revelation, the 6th chapter, speaks about the red horse and how a sword was given to him to take peace from the earth, right? Isaac prophesied and told Esau that he will rule by way of the sword, right? That's how he will live. And that sword, he Esau went throughout the whole world and used that sword, but he mainly and horrifically put it on the nation of Israel, southern and northern kingdom. Okay, so that is how the Lord tore us, right? That is how the Lord was as a lion to Ephraim and as a young lion to the house of Judah. It was through Esau that he had these things happen. And as it says, and none shall rescue him. Okay, just like how it says in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, us going into Egypt again with ships, and no man shall buy you, which means what? To redeem you, right? And no nation has redeemed us out of the hand of Esau. Even right now, what's going on, with the migrants, right? The alligator Alcatraz, right? The terrible conditions and the lack of justice that is being done amongst Israel, northern and southern kingdom, is still happening to the southern kingdom, right? No other nation is coming to our defense and saying, you know what, we got to stop what's going on over there, right? It's just happening. And it's been happening so often and so much, it's become part of daily life as an Israelite in America. And that's how it always has been, really. Okay? Because that goes into the prophecy of you should have no assurance of your life. Verse 15, it says, and I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense. And in order to acknowledge your offense, you got to know that you offended, right? See what it says here. Confess, right? You got to confess your faults. And the only way to do that is you got to come into the knowledge and wisdom, right, of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Because the first thing you do when you come into the truth is you realize that you have not been living right. You have not been doing according to the will of your power, right? The will of the only one who can deliver you out of the hand of your enemy. So the Lord said, until they acknowledge their offense, and that's what has happened in these latter days, right? Israel has been waking up, all of the tribes, right? Not all people in the tribes, but all 12. There is people in every tribe that knows that they're Israelites, right? So it says, and seek my face, right? As Baruch said, ye shall remember yourself and think upon my name. See? So the way that we get delivered isn't by, crying to Esau, isn't by, it's not even by just unifying, right? Because you've had that happen back in the past with the brown berets, the Latin kings, with the Black Panthers and all that. You've had certain movements that tried to unify together, but it wasn't under the banner of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? And it wasn't about repenting, right? Coming humble and seeking the Lord. That's why it says, and they shall seek my face. In their affliction, they shall seek me early. In this affliction that is happening, as is written in Jeremiah, the 30th chapter, it's a time like never before. Okay? But the Lord got this devil, Trump and everybody that's with him, how they're moving. They don't have any type of pity. Okay? There is no type of, all of that civil rights is out the window. Matter of fact, there was a clip, and maybe I could find it, where this guy, basically, he was some type of officer, and he said that there is no such thing as sanctuary cities. There is no such thing as sanctuary state or sanctuary town. That wherever they can go wherever they want, and they can grab you up, take you, and the states can't do nothing about it. So that goes to show you that the whole the states governing themselves, that's out the window, right? This is federally being done, and the states' jurisdictions is being overran and overlooked. Okay, and that goes to show just how how much of a wrath Esau is coming with, particularly upon you Israelites. Okay, so let's get this here in the book of Isaiah chapter 11, because like how we just said, that the only way that you're really going to come together and be successful, right? Because you can come together, but if you don't come together the right way, you're not going to be successful. Only way that you're going to be successful is you have to come under the banner of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, right? Isaiah 11 verse 10. And in that day shall there be a root of Jesse, and which shall stand for an ensign of the people. What is an ensign? A banner, right? Like I said, you have to come under the banner of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And what is this ensign? This ensign is Yahushai. Okay, that is what you have to align yourself with. It says, to it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. Who are these Gentiles? Those are the Israelites that were in this Gentile state of mind. You see? And that's how we all were before we got to this knowledge and understanding in this truth. We all were in a Gentile state of mind, but we sought the Lord, right, in that state. Verse 11, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, right? What was the first major deliverance? Egypt. That was when all of Israel was oppressed together. All right, but when Jeremiah spoke about that already had happened. So Jeremiah, in Jeremiah the 50th chapter, where what I opened up with, that was speaking about a future time in a future Babylon, which we know is America. So this second time that the Lord will set his hand to recover the remnant of his people, which is the elect of the nation of Israel out of all tribes. Because not all of Israel is going to be delivered, because not all of Israel is coming under the banner that the Lord set up. See, it's only through Yahushua will we be delivered from the hand of our enemies. And from them, all of them that hate us. That's what Luke, the first chapter, 68 on down, was talking about. It says, shall recover the remnant of his people, which should be left from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the isles of the sea. Right, because you have Israel that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. You have Israelites that look like these other nations. They may be in America, right? But they could look like a Elamite. They could look like a Cushite. They could look like an Assyrian, right? You have a lot of northern tribes that look Assyrian, right? But also you do have Israelites that are actually in these countries as well. Verse 12, it says, and he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed from Judah, from the four corners of the earth. Right, like I just said, being scattered, which was a part of the curses, which you had that being exacerbated during the time of the transatlantic slave trade, okay, where Judah was scattered. But even before that, you had Judah scattered, during the 70 AD, which was a persecution of the Edomites as well. Okay. Verse 13, the envy of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversaries of Judah shall be cut off. See? So what does that mean? That the time was going to come when the remnant of Israel was going to, through Yahushua, right, they weren't going to hate each other, the kingdoms, the northern and southern kingdoms, because they were going to realize that we were all the same people. But you also have Israel that are waking up to that fact through the affliction that is happening as well. It says, Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. Reading this in the NLT, it says, then at last the jealousy between Israel and Judah will end. They will not be rivals anymore. And that's beautiful, man. It's going to be a beautiful thing when the Lord brings Israel and Judah firmly, all the whole nation together. Okay, when the whole nation of Israel and the kingdom is together, we're going to be an unstoppable force. We literally will take over the world. But it's going to only be with the elect of Israel. But you have a lot of our people, right, that are waking up to the fact that, hey, look, this devil, right, Esau, he is the problem. Okay, and for too long has the rivals between the two nations been a thing, but because of this persecution, right, it's being shown that we are the same people. Okay, Ezekiel 35 verse where is it? Ezekiel 35 verse verse 10. It says, because thou hast said, and this is the Lord speaking to Esau, these two nations, right? And what are these two nations? The nations of Judah and Israel. Reading in the NLT, for you said, the lands of Israel and of Judah will be ours, which the literal lands they have taken, right? Those are the Amalekites over there, but also, right, these are people before it's a place. So the two nations have and has also been underneath their possession. It says, we will take possessions of them. We don't, what do we care that the Lord is there? See that? And that's the prideness, right? The pridefulness of Esau. Because his pride has deceived him to think that, yeah, I can touch the people of the Lord and nothing will happen, right? I can go into the land and claim it as ours and the Lord won't do nothing. The God of heaven won't do anything. But they did not consider the latter end of it. Okay, they didn't consider the remnant awakening. They didn't consider that their oppression, right, and their perpetual hatred was going to awaken Israel as a whole, right, back to who they are and unify the nations together. That's something that they didn't consider, but it was all prophesied and it was all written, and that is what you see happening right now. So, I just wanted to touch on that, and Lord willing, this was edifying unto the elect, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, Shalom.